The Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to all members of the public. Would you now stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, tonight we're going to start off with the organization of the Board of Education. Mr. Alexander, you'll start off with swearing the oath of office.
Yes, at this time, I'd like our new board members, if you would, to meet me at the front, and we will swear you in as custom.
Oh.
You know what? Let's put you right there.
Okay.
You're good. Okay. And we'll do this in unison, just so you can, we can have that on the next station. You've seen this before.
Can you raise your hand?
Yes, you would raise your right hand. So the oath of office. I state your name.
I, Joyce Norton,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or the purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or for purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of the School Board of School District Number 15 of Beatrice, Nebraska,
and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of the School Board of School District Number 15 of Beatrice, Nebraska,
according to law and to the best of my ability.
according to law and to the best of my ability.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate,
And I do further swear that I do not advocate,
nor am I a member of any political party or organization
nor am I a member of any political party or organization
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence,
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence,
and that during such time as I am in the position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization
and that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence,
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Okay, next up, we have the election of officers. As per policy 9115, the Board of Education shall hold its regular annual organization meeting in January, at which time it will elect its officers for the coming calendar year. We'll start off with president. Can I have a nomination for president?
I nominate John Zimmerman for president of the board.
Can I have a second? any other nominations? All right, we have a motion by Janet, a second by Doris. Can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved, 7-0. Next up, we have the Office of Vice President.
I'll nominate Lisa Bieber for vice president.
Can I have a second?
I'll second the nomination.
I have a motion by Steve and a second by Eric. Are there any other nominations for Vice President?
I nominate Doris Martin for vice president.
Can I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Janet and a second by Aaron. All right.
Yeah, I'm Rick Warner.
Paper ballots?
Paper ballots? All right.
I would entertain the motion to cease and that secret ballot be cast for that too.
All right. Cease that and have a second. Do we need a motion for that? All right, can I have a motion to cease voting and have,
Entertain.
I move that that nomination cease.
and have a secret ballot?
Just to protect the,
Reputation of all those involved.
Do you want me to amend that motion to have a paper ballot, or is it okay just like a nomination cease?
I mean, Jackie is preparing. Just to
In accordance to the vote, the Vice President will be Doris Martin. All right, next up, we have the Secretary. Do we want to go ahead
just entertain a motion.
and, okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for Secretary for the school board.
I move that Dr. Jackie Nielsen be appointed as Secretary of the Board of Education.
I'll second it.
Motion by Doris, second by Janet. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. Can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved. Secretary will be Jackie Nielsen. Now, can I have a motion or a nomination for treasurer?
I move that Jason Alexander be appointed as treasurer of the Board of Education contingent upon his ability to be bonded.
Good motion.
I will second that.
Thank you. Motion by Janet, second by Eric. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Hearing none, can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved 7-0. Okay, next up on our committee appointments. Last year for the 2018 School and Community and Staff Relations, we had Janet Byers, Doris Martin, and John Zimmerman. This year, I have talked to everyone, and Aaron and Eric have agreed to sit on that this year. And Janet, would you be willing to stay as chair? All right, so the School and Community this year will be Janet Byers, Aaron Chadwick, and Eric Trusty. The 2018 Americanism Committee was Nancy Sedlacek, Steve Winter, and Lisa Pieper. For the 2019, I did not get around and talk to anyone on that. Lisa, would you want to stay on Americanism Committee? Okay. Steve, would you like to? And Doris.
That's fine.
Now Nancy was chair last year. Do we have anybody that would care to be chair for the Americanism Committee?
I can do that.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Negotiations Committee. This year we have Janet Byers, Doris Martin, and John Zimmerman. I have talked to Doris. She said she would remain on negotiations. Was there anybody who really wanted to be on negotiations?
I will remain on it. I'm fine with that if somebody else doesn't want to do it. You know, if we have everybody who wants to do it, that
I know,
opportunity can go to
really
someone else.
anxious. Eric really wanted to be on this, but unfortunately, he felt it'd be conflict of interest, so. All right. Then I will finish up being on there. So we have the Negotiations Committee for the 2020-2021 year will be Janet Byers, Doris Martin, and John Zimmerman. NASB Legislative Delegate, currently we have Steve Winter. Steve, would you like to continue?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. And we're back down to Government Relations Network Representative. Currently, we have Doris Martin. Do you want to continue, or would you like me to search for another candidate?
Well, if someone would really like to do it, I can part, but it's not a big deal. Right.
Did anyone else want to be a Government Relations Network rep? No one is even looking at me. Oh, thank God. All right, hearing no one else, Doris, I will keep your name on there. All right, thank you, everyone. Now we will move on to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the consent agenda as presented, including approval of the agenda as submitted, approval of minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting on December 10th, 2018, approval of the proposed accounts for payment, approval of budgetary receipts and expenditures for December 2018, approval of option students, approval of policy, the third reading of 9110, number of members, terms of office, and vacancies, and approval of contracts for 2018-2019, including Jennifer Luntz, speech language pathologist at Stoddard.
I have a motion by Doris. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Jim.
A motion and a second, I'd just
Oh.
like to say a few words about all those things for the purpose of the audience and yourselves. For the December budgetary and expenditures report, we saw a payroll amount of $1,657,699.52. Bills totaled $610,564, which brings total expenses to $2,268,263. Revenue was just shy of $1 million. It was at $907,829. So roughly, as we look at ourselves being 1/3 of the way through the budget cycle, we've expended almost identically that amount of money. And in terms of where we are at in relationship to fractional and percentile percentage. So we're about right on track, I guess, is what you would say. The good news is we are right on track with budgetary expenses. And sped reimbursement starts in January. So that does help us pick up in the area of revenue a little bit. And the bad news of this is, and not to be negative Nelly, and no offense to anybody named Nelly, but the bad news is there's not much room for error in all of this. So there's not a great deal of margin of error that we have in relationship to our expenses. So we do continue to watch those. And that begs the question, what now? And in relationship to the budget, where we are and what now, it's going to be important that we really talk to everybody about the only things that we would look at ordering at this point, given where we are in the nature of the school year, are really student needs-based items. We're going to have to really focus on the difference between our wants and our needs, ask our principals to make a conscientious effort, and we've had this discussion already, to really put a tight grasp on spending, to make sure that as we transition through the next 2/3 of the budget cycle, our revenue has a chance to keep up with our expenses. And typically, that generally happens when sped reimbursement kicks in. But I just want you to know that that'll be a conversation that we are having with our principals in the coming administrative team meeting, is that we really say no to anything that is not student-related need versus want. Now, we know that there's gonna be those things that pop up that we have to look at fixing or ordering or whatever the case may be. So, but we've had the discussion, and I just want to reinforce that that's where we are. It's what we've got to do to make sure that we position ourselves correctly for the next 2/3 of the budget cycle. And all in all, I would say we're on track, but just gonna have to keep a close eye on things. In relationship to item 4.7, approval of contracts for the 18-19 school year. Some people may be asking, why are we approving a contract at mid-year? And that's just because we had a speech language pathologist that left us for a private position. And we did hire Jennifer Lunt as a speech language pathologist at Stoddard, so we welcome her aboard, and that's the reason for the approval of that contract.
All right, thank you. Now, I had a motion by Doris. Did I get a second on that? Okay. Ben, any questions or comments from anyone? If not, can I have your votes, please? That is approved 7-0. We're now going to move on to the outstanding recognition portion of our meeting. First up, Employee of the Month, Dr. Nielsen.
Good evening. Tonight, we are excited to recognize another one of our great educators. However, our teacher is not here tonight. She is over at the middle school, working with our host squad, and doing great things with our students. So, this is one of the reasons why she was nominated. Mrs. Abby Kastmeyer is the January Employee of the Month. Mrs. Kastmeyer's dedication to learning is evidenced by her consistent and tireless efforts in preparing thoughtful, engaging lessons for her students. She designs lessons and learning opportunities based on standards as well as student needs as revealed by her formative assessments. Technology also plays a key role in Mrs. Kastmeyer's classroom. Recognizing that technology does not replace good teaching, she utilizes technology thoughtfully and always looking for new tools to help engage the students. In addition, Mrs. Kastmeyer works tirelessly to make sure that her students receive timely feedback so that they can right away apply the skills that they have mastered and further practice the skills that are lacking. As a colleague of Mrs. Kastmeyer, I can testify to her helpfulness as a PLC team leader. She shares resources, lesson ideas, and organization strategies that help to make all of our classrooms run more smoothly. Abby has also taken a lead in the Beatrice Middle School Hope Squad. She teaches lessons, provides students with thoughtful discussion, and listens when students share concerns so that she can disseminate the information and find possible resources. If there is something to be said about great, solid teaching and professionalism, I can certainly say it about Abby Kastmeyer. She is a model teacher and colleague. We would like to congratulate Mrs. Kastmeyer, English teacher at the middle school, as January Employee of the Month. And I think to accept her award is probably Mr. Jarash. Yes, I did let her know that the chamber bucks in there need to stay and she needs to receive those. Yes. I'll eat you. Pass that on for me.
I sure will. Thank you.
All right, next up, the All-State Music Awards, Mr. Randall. No, you're not Mr. Randall.
I get the opportunity to meet with you tonight, folks. We have a girls' RCC basketball game at the high school that Mr. Randall's at. But I'm honored to present, come on, guys, 4 young men the opportunity to be recognized for all-state music, for vocal music. These students made the decision to try out and were asked to sing songs that would be sung at all-state music concert. Mr. Meyer, our vocal music instructor, then submitted their performances through a live audition process. And these 4 Beatrice High School students then went to the Lead Center on November 14th through the 16th and joined a mass choir of other Nebraska music students. The group of approximately 415 students from across Nebraska sang 6 pieces of music. These young men are excellent students at Beatrice High School. They're leaders at our school, and they're very talented in the area of music and many other areas. Beatrice High School is very proud of them and this accomplishment. I visited with all 4 of these young men. There are 2 here tonight. Matthew Jobman, this is Chase Barber and Matt Price. Matthew Jobman is playing reserve basketball tonight, and John Spilker, I thought was going to be here, but he must be in the pep band at the high school. So let me tell you a little bit about each of these guys. Chase Barber is the son of Jason and Angie Barber. Chase said, whoever might be out there wanting to attempt to try out for All-State should do so. It was an enjoyable experience. Meeting a really great conductor was amazing. And Chase is a senior at Beatrice High and plans to go to either UNO or K-State for college. Matthew Jobman is the son of Karen and Mark Jobman, and the experience was rewarding. I learned a lot about myself and enjoyed being around other people who enjoy music and singing as much as I do. And Matthew is a junior at Beatrice High. Matt is the son of Heidi and Wayne Price. He said, this experience really allowed me to display my talents in a positive way. It was very supportive, and everyone was there to improve music and be focused to get good at music. I enjoyed the positive vibes. And Matt is a junior at Beatrice High. And last but not least, John Spilker is the son of Scott and Jean Spilker. John wanted me to make sure you knew this was his 3rd year of making All-State. And each experience has been different. This year I really like our conductor because he focused on the individual. If each individual improves, the group improves, and that perspective was cool. John is a senior, and he would like to attend college at Rice University. As I said, these 4 young men are very talented in the area of vocal music. We're very proud of them, and great job, guys. Thank you.
Good job, Betty. we'll wait just a couple minutes while the room clears. Next up, we're gonna have student update. Hannah, take it away.
Hi. Well, I don't really have much to say. We had 16 days of break, so. So before break ended, we ended the semester off pretty good. I thought it was a good note. So we ended our semester. We just started back up last Tuesday. And so yeah, everyone's getting back in the mode of school again. So it's taking a little bit, but and we're gonna be. Sports were starting, they were going over break too, but now we're getting back to the hang of sports in school and all that. And also it was last week, we had Mudecas tournaments and Key Club helped with those. So if you went to any of the Mudecas tournaments, you probably saw Key Club helping out concessions. But really other than that, not a whole lot has happened. But just wait.
You had the one chance to speak before Jason, so he doesn't steal all your stuff.
No, but there wasn't anything to steal.
All right, next up, we have the audit report. Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, at this time, with tradition and keeping with what we normally need to do in improving the audit, I will introduce Ryan, who will talk to us about the audit findings from the 2017-18 school year. Thank you, Ryan.
I'll spend more time talking about the numbers within the report and the findings, because there's not much to report on the findings, so that's good. What my goal is tonight is to kind of just give everybody a highlight of what's in this report that we're looking at, because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of information, a lot of numbers, and may or may not make sense to people that aren't familiar with what it is that they're looking at. So I'm going to start, I'm going to go through this quickly, but please stop me if you have any questions or whatever. I'd be happy to answer those questions. Okay, pages 1 through 3 is the independent auditor's report. This is basically what our firm provides as it relates to the financial statements and information contained within. It discloses what the district's responsibility is, and it discloses what our responsibility is. Our responsibility is to basically give an opinion on the financial statements contained here within. That opinion is reported on the top of page 2, which basically says that it's an unmodified opinion, which means there's no, in our opinion, no material misstatements contained within these financial statements. Otherwise, it's a clean audit report. Pages 4 through 7 is a section called the Management's Discussion and Analysis. This section kind of gives a brief narrative of the information that's contained within the detailed schedules after that. 8 through 10 is kind of a hybrid type financial statement. I'll kind of walk us through this, but the first column you're going to see is gross disbursements for each function or program of the district. You can see 26.1 million of total disbursements for the district. That compares to 26.8 million from the prior year. The biggest variances was, I think, capital outlays were down about $1 million compared to the 16-17 year, and debt service was down about $600,000. So those two were some cost savings as it relates to this year. However, the district did have about $700,000 of non-debt service or capital outlay increase in expenditures. So that's how we net those and get to 26.1 million disbursements. The next two columns you're going to see are some revenues that the district collects related to various programs or function within the district. Okay. So you get a net disbursement column on the far right-hand side. You bring that down, so you can see about 21.2 million of net disbursements for the district. Now we talk about the collections the district received for the school year. Those totaled roughly 21 million. Okay, so your collections less your disbursements give you a net change of about 284,000. Okay, last year that number was I think roughly about a little over $1 million of net decrease in net assets. So net position for the district as of August 31, 2018, as you can see, about 4.5 million. Okay. Page 10 is kind of what I would call the balance sheet of the school district. Since we report on a cash basis, there's no liabilities. What you're going to find is the cash in bank and the cash held at the county treasurer that is yet to be remitted to the district. So there's 11.3 million in the bank, and there was 3.1 million sitting at the county treasurer's office that had yet to be forwarded to the district. 11 through 13 are the same information that we just went over on pages 8 through 10, but it's broken out in detail by each individual fund of the district. Of course, most activity runs through the general fund, so that's where the majority of the numbers are going to flow to, which is the column 1. Page 14, a couple accounts that are considered agency funds, which really are funds that the district holds, but they are related to outside organizations. So you can see the activities funds, they have $577,000, and there's a flex benefit account that had $71,000. Starting on page 15 are the required footnotes, the financial statements. You know, note 1 is just a common, doesn't change a whole lot. It's the significant accounting policies footnote. And quite honestly, I don't think there were any changes to that footnote within this fiscal year. Note 2 talks about the makeup of the cash balances of the district and whether or not all those funds were covered by FDIC insurance. So you can see that I think in the custodial credit risk, it talks about that all funds were covered by insurance. So there was no risk of loss on those funds. Note 3 gives a very detailed description of the retirement plan that the district participates in. Let's see here on page 25, you can see that almost 1.4 million is the district's contribution to the public retirement systems plan. 4 gives individual detail of the long-term debt that the district is carrying, and we break it out as far as what's coming due within the next 5 years. Individually, the next 5, and then blocks of 5 years after that. Page 28 is what they call the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. That is a requirement based upon the amount of federal awards that the district receives. Since that is in excess of $750,000, we're required to do additional procedures. This schedule reports all federal money by program that the district received money for and spent money on. So I'll talk a little bit more about the 2 programs that I looked at in particular in a little bit as it relates to federal programs. Okay, page 30 and 32, the general fund is actually comprised of additional funds in certain occasions, and this is very common, but the depreciation fund, and in this district's situation, the employee benefit fund is considered part of or a subgroup of the general fund. So this schedule is a combining schedule of the figures that you would see back on pages 11 through 13 as reported in the general fund. Nothing new there, it's just those are component units of the general fund. 33 through 48 are the budgetary schedules. Again, these are all the actual current year and actual prior are all contained in schedules that we've already talked about. The only addition here is there's budgeted numbers. It helps us figure out what funds, if any, overspent the approved budget. And there weren't any for this fiscal year. So 51 through 57 is the detail of the expenditures related to the general fund in particular. So if we go back to that page 8 that I mentioned, you know, we have all the gross expenditures by program. This is the detail that makes up the figures on that particular statement. So you can see what salaries, what's supplies, what's repairs. So 58 through 61 are just required letters as required by governmental auditing standards and by uniform guidance to federal programs, talking about internal controls and any findings related thereof. As far as the only findings, which you can see on page 63, and this is one that we have at 99% of our school districts, and it's nothing new. And here is government auditing standards really want clients to be able to prepare this report. Right? No, very few school districts in Nebraska do. So we do it, and we say that that's it's a management finding due to the fact that they have us write the report. It's very well accepted by NDE. Oh, the single audit piece. So this year, there's always two of the three larger federal programs that I look at. You know, it's always between the SPED program, Title I program, and the lunch program. This year, as part of the single audit procedures, I looked at the lunch fund and Title I. Okay? And there were no findings related to either one of those programs, and the controls in place are operating as designed. So I don't have any other information. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Couple of questions for you.
Yep.
Brian. One is in regards to the coding changes that we've seen take place this year. Can you give us a little bit of an insight as to what you see, maybe what the audit might produce as a result of the 18-19? I know a lot of people have been concerned about, and I'm kind of leading you into this because I know the coding changes for this year were enormous.
Yes, there were.
And so as we look at the 18-19 cycle and how they are applicable on your side of doing the public audit, what are you guys foreseeing?
Well, there's no doubt a lot of, I don't say frustration, but extra hard work that all the districts encounter to streamline their chart of accounts to match what NDE is now going to require to submit the AFR for the year ending 18-19. Okay, so now we're in that window. Some schools started that conversion process in the middle of last year. Okay, so they kind of worked the bugs out at that point in time. Some waited to switch until September 1 of 18, and so they're starting a full year under the new coding system. At the end of the day, what NDE is after is they want the districts to be able to basically submit AFR information right from their software program. Okay, so you ask yourself, well, what does that really mean, or what's it going to take for us to get to that point? Very few of our schools actually post our adjusting journal entries, reclassifications. This expense really is probably, supplies rather than, miscellaneous expense or whatever. What's going to be important then is going forward is that we give the districts whatever adjusting journal entries we have, they post them into their computer system so then they can actually submit the AFR themselves. I'll give you one example. No school district carries the cash held of the county treasurer within their accounting records. I mean, they don't consider that money that the district actually has because it's not in their bank account. Okay? Well, as forever we always include that county treasurer balance within our statements. So there's going to be some journal entries to reflect what that cash is, that county treasurer that the district hasn't received yet. it's gonna be a learning process. I think NDE is fully aware of that. Procedurally, it's not going to change what we do. It's just a matter of us working a little bit closer with the district to make sure what's being submitted is what we would have submitted, you know, in years past for the district.
And then finally, I think it goes without question, all of us probably have, and I know your crystal ball is probably only as clear as mine, but analysis of the impact of the federal shutdown. Has there been much discussion about how you see the impacts of that you can bestow upon us as good information?
Not really. I mean, the extent of our concern with the government shutdown would be as it relates to the IRS, you know, and as it relates to the tax season we're just about to enter. Not to say that how it affects all of our clients hasn't been considered. I don't think it's really been thought through to what degree impact the shutdown might have to school districts, counties, villages, cities, whatnot. I think that I don't have much insight, quite honestly.
Well, and I kind of put you on the spot there, but I guess my concern is with the federal programs part and, you know, how that will affect the coding changes coupled with the shutdown and the backlog of how that's all going to.
Well, I don't think the coding will be, you know, a hurdle, you know, for the district as far as the shutdown goes. I'd be more concerned about reimbursement.
Yes.
From the federal government. You know, all indications are that they say taxpayers' refunds will be sent. I don't know. It's going to be dependent upon when they actually open their window and start accepting tax returns. You know, so I don't know what delay the shutdown will have on actually forwarding funds to various school districts.
Appreciate that, and I know, like I said, I kind of put you on the spot. It's one of those things where it's the reason why we have the reserve that we have is because in very few people will probably remember, but in 1998, when the Department of Education withheld state aid payments for a 3-month time period, it was important that we had that reserve in the bank to be able to pay bills. And this is another example of, we don't know what the backlog on the federal reimbursement programs will be that you see listed in the audit. So as we talk about all this, it's interesting this probably should be a personal discussion with Ryan, but it's interesting to think about how all that could impact us and will impact us and why we need to have that cash reserve in place. So
That's a great observation, and I was thinking about this too as you were talking about that. So I think you mentioned that the disbursements for the month are about $2 million or something, and that would make sense given total disbursements of $26 million. Well, if there's $14 million thereabouts of cash that the district has, that covers 5-6 months of expenditures, even in the event that the federal government doesn't come through with their reimbursements. So that's a good observation.
thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, now is the time for public forum. If anybody had wanted to make any comments related to any of the agenda items for this evening, this is the time. No one is moving, so we'll move on to the discussion portion. First up, we have the first reading of policy 3580, insufficient funds. Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, basically, in this policy, we're eliminating a $10 fee to cover the administrative costs of covering issues of insufficient funds. It's actually a current charge of $15 administrative cost to cover the district. So we're just recommending that we strike that $10 fee and leave it blank, so we don't have to adjust the policy every time the cost goes up by $4 or $5.
Comments or questions? All right, move right into the action. First up, approval of Jason Alexander as the district federal grant representative and financial representative. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve Jason Alexander as the district's federal grant representative and financial representative.
I have a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janet. Any comments or questions from anyone? Seeing none, can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved, 7-0. Next up, 9.2, approval of the depository banks. As per policy 3205, the Board of Education shall annually designate those banks which will serve as depositories of the various schools' district funds. Can I have a motion for that?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 name the following as the depository banks for Beatrice Public Schools: Pinnacle Bank, Security First Bank, First National Bank of Omaha, Beatrice Branch, and Bank of the West.
I have a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Jason, did you want to speak on any of that?
Basically, these are formalities that are required by banking institutions and policy as well to make sure they're all in place to accept and receive and deposit funds, federal and local, within the banking institutions that we have funds with. So.
All right, any comments or questions? Seeing none, can I have your votes, please? All right, that is 6 yes and 1 abstention. Next up, we have the approval of contract with Daktronics. Can I have a motion for that?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the contract with Daktronics for the purchase of a video board for the ozone.
I have a motion, can I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Second by Eric. All right. Jason, did you want to make any comments?
Yeah, a few on this one. Just first of all, thank you to the board for agreeing to allow me to move forward with this and at least gauge the interest of the community. We had a luncheon, as you all know, invited businesses, asked them about their involvement and if they would be willing to support it, because it all really comes down to that. The business community stepped forward in a big way, and we have 10 anchor sponsors at $3,000 per year that will be underneath the digital video board, and so each year that will accumulate to $30,000 that will add up to pay the bill. We have 10 premier sponsors at $1,000 each year, which brings us to a total of $40,000 per year of marketing advertisement that will take place in the gym. Our payment portion of that on a lease purchase program for 5 years will be $30,769 a year. So essentially what happens is the activities will see a boost of somewhere between $9,000 to $9,200 per year in the first 5 years that we have these agreements with these businesses. And it's a way of helping our businesses get the word out in our community, and as I've said before, in the most captive audience that we have throughout a 9-month period, and get messages out to our student body that we may want to have, and also at the same time recognize their support within our gymnasium. So it's a win-win situation, and after the 5-year terms, the contracts are renewable, and we can talk about, what amount of money or what we see fit as a proper, a marketing amount at that time. But it really was tremendously successful. We had all the anchor sponsorships and premier sponsorships sold within a matter of a couple weeks' time, and just communicating back and forth. And so a huge thank you, and you're all signing thank yous as they go around to all the businesses that participated in supporting that, and we just want them to know how much we appreciate it. This wouldn't have been possible. I know a question is going to be, when will the board go up? And it's in manufacture right now that all the paperwork's done. We hope, best case scenario, that we would be able to have the board go up somewhere towards the end of February, and maybe catch if we would have to be fortunate enough to host a district game or something like that, catch that particular game. A lot of that will depend, of course, on a lot of details, but I'll keep you informed. So that's kind of a summary of where we ended up on the digital video board, but again, a huge thank you to everyone that sponsored and helped out with that.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Did anybody have any comments or questions?
I just want to say great job in putting it together, and also thank you to all those businesses who support our school.
All right, hearing none others. Can I have your votes, please? All right, that is approved 7-0. Next up, we have the approval of the 2017-18 audit as presented. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the 2017-18 financial audit as presented.
Can I have a second for that?
Second.
All right, motion by Doris, second by Janet. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, can I have your votes, please? All right, that passes 7-0 as well. All right, we're going to move on to the Administrator's Report section. First up, we have Preschool. Mrs. Timmer.
I have a little gift for everyone. It's nothing big really. But we're gonna start with, thank you for the sponsorship for, to do the video for the preschool. So we're gonna roll out our preschool video and here's some popcorn to enjoy with your movie. I know, pretty cheeky, right?
This is the exciting portion of the meeting.
Missy. Thank you.
Are we ready? We're ready, go for it.
I found that this preschool is life-changing in the life of my two boys that have come through it. We are a hands-on, developmentally appropriate place where every child is loved, every child gets to experience what he or she likes to do, and will grow from the minute they walk into the door to the time they leave. They are our #1 priority.
Since 1981, the Beatrice Community Preschool has provided a play-based curriculum and nurturing environment for thousands of 3- and 4-year-olds from all backgrounds and learning abilities.
Beatrice Preschool is inclusive, welcoming, warm, and full of play. As a defender of play, we're helping each child grow through what they know.
Like say if I'm working on colors, and I have like a little sheet that says, okay, match the yellow. Well, that's not really fun, but if you play a game with something that they like if they're into race cars, you just go get colored race cars, and then you're playing, you're like, well, hang on, hand me the yellow race car. It's like you can work on everything that you need to work on, but do it through play. And then they don't even know they're learning. I am a defender of play.
The Beatrice Community Preschool is a place where children grow. Our teachers focus on the needs of every child in our care, enabling them to succeed in the key areas of math, literacy, and social and emotional development.
The teachers here are loving, creative, and innovative.
They are so willing to go above and beyond for your kids. They treat your kids like their own kids, and it's just a great environment.
The most important thing in the relationship with my students is that they know I care for them, and I'm there for them. Every year is so fun to watch the fresh faces walk through the door and see them hit those light bulb moments and the smiles on the children's faces and the parents' faces to say, my kid's learning, and they're learning through fun things and in an environment where every child feels like they're a special person.
I love the Beatrice Community Preschool. I love Beatrice Community Preschool.
I love Beatrice Community Preschool, and I love Beatrice Public Schools.
Call today to find out how the Beatrice Community Preschool can help your family.
So, hopefully that will sell us a little bit more and know that what we do is much more than just having kids in a building. So we really are a play-based, hands-on preschool, which enrollment starts tomorrow. So we're gonna roll out the video with your permission with enrollment starting tomorrow and hope that our numbers continue to stay very high and at full capacity. It's really fun having the kids come back after Christmas break and they're taking ownership for behaviors and knowing, we call them red choices and green choices, what those green choices are, and they're proud of themselves for making green choices and not making those red choices. So, we've lots of challenges, and every day you walk through that and know that what we're doing matters. And, you know, research shows that if we get kids early, we help them get on the right foot. And so, thank you for taking early childhood seriously and helping the littlest of Beatrice be successful. So, that's pretty awesome. So, thank you very much.
And nicely done. I would say that on the video portion of this, Missy put in a tremendous amount of time, as you can see, in planning and lining people up, and a tremendous job of Missouri for the Beatrice Public Schools. And so
And I was not supposed to get a video, but they literally trapped me in my office and wouldn't let me leave. And I'm like, whoa, no. So, it was great. Thank you guys for helping us show people what, I think we've done, our Facebook page has done a nice job of telling our story, but hopefully this will get out. I would like to just flood the internet with this and flood other things. We'll find some other avenues to get it out, but I think it kind of shows what we're about. They did a great job.
I think you have enough snow coming this weekend that you can play in the snow again.
Well, actually, what we're doing tomorrow is, we just sent notes home, we're having a snow day tomorrow. We have that tiny little hill, and so we're sledding and having fun tomorrow afternoon and morning. So if you want to grab your boots and come sled tomorrow, come on over. So, thank you guys.
Thank you.
So with your approval, we will release the video tomorrow to our media agents. So thank you guys for being here tonight to cover that, but we will also be letting that go to you as soon as we have the approval from the board. We told you we'd keep you informed, and so that's kind of the final product. But I think it's very nicely done, very professionally done, and will be a great spokesperson and media outlet for the kickoff of preschool tomorrow.
Jason, have we done that for the school district as a whole, or is that a video like that?
This was our first venture. Good question. And we wanted to try it and see how it would go. And so I think, it'll be something that we talk about in the future.
Super easy company to work with. They listen. They did a nice job of taking everything that we had and putting it into a script form. And then they shot that video for an entire day. 2 people came down, and I think the final product is exactly what we wanted the story to show. So, fun guys to work with.
There was a lot of script writing and changes back and forth that we, that promoted it. But in the end, I think it does a nice job of balancing, showing the kids, which is important, but yet in the same sense, explaining the instructional value, but what happens on a social level within that basis of preschool is so important. And I do, Eric, I appreciate the question, because I think it opens an avenue for us that we really can tap into a lot of other areas. So.
All right, next up, we have our superintendent report. Mr. Alexander.
All right, I'll make it brief as possible. My superintendent report basically is just kind of a recap of where we've been legislatively. As you know, and some of you get emails, I don't know how many of you keep up, but the legislature, the unicameral is well underway at this point. After the first week, the education committee members were selected. Senator Groney was selected as chairperson. Brewer, Kowalski, Linehan, Moorfeld, Mormon, and Pambrook and Walls were the committee chairs. Of those 6, I would say the education committee contains 4 very strong public education proponents and a couple of potential swing votes, so we'll see how that all works out. 2 votes were required by the unicameral, which is kind of unheard of, to retain Senator Groney as the education chair. So that's just it's just something that we pay attention to at this level, because that's probably who we're going to speak to a lot. Just a quick note on the tone. Senator Tom Brizzi was selected as committee chair of General Affairs. This is interesting because it characterizes a judgment-based evaluation of the merits of politics and good practice versus maybe some of the bipartisanship that's taken place in the last couple of years. So it was an interesting first week, in terms of committee chairs and elections and all those things that took place. We do wish Senator Dorn the best in his selection to the Appropriations Committee, so that was a good appointment. Just things that we're watching. The continued political mischaracterization of schools is overspending, as you can see from our audit report. That's not necessarily where Beatrice Public Schools has been, and I don't think it's a representation of where the public schools in the state of Nebraska have been, is overspending, but that continues to be the political narrative. So we keep a close eye on that. I've written a letter I'll be sharing with you in the next week after it's been proofread a little closer as to what actually our expenditures do show and what taxes show. And the fact that we aren't necessarily, the tax shift that's taken place isn't necessarily a relationship to overspending. So look forward to that coming out. Debate between opposition to any new sources of revenue. This is just one that befuddles me from the standpoint that we're not going to have any new taxes, but we're also not going to look for any new sources of revenue in a system where we need to be looking at new sources of revenue. So those will be discussions that we keep you up to date on. Medicaid expansion continues to be a big question mark. The jury's still out whether this will actually cost Nebraska or it will result in more federal funds. Now, per our discussion with Ryan this evening, if the federal government doesn't get back on track, it will be interesting to see how this plays out. But so you know, upcoming meetings that we have scheduled from the stance perspective, next Thursday we are meeting as a group, a stance group, and then we are meeting at the Capitol, and we will go around and meet with the different senators to promote the idea of public education in Nebraska, not just Beatrice Public Schools, but all the things that we can agree on. So that's taking place, and the agenda is set forth there for you. And then Thursday on February 7th, we meet again at the NCSA building, and after we've had a chance to visit with senators, we'll devise a plan for those next two meetings to be an advocate for kids in the state of Nebraska on that level. I would just like to thank the board for allowing us the opportunity to schedule Dr. Joe for our opening ceremony with teachers. I think it was very well received. She was a ball of energy to bring back teachers at the start of the second semester after Christmas vacation, and I think everybody greatly appreciated it. So just a note of thank you to you for allowing that to take place. That's all I have for right now. As Hannah said, we've kind of been in a position of just kind of getting our feet back underneath us here, so.
All right, anybody have comments or questions for Jason in regards to his report? A little bit of housekeeping. You'll notice I put down in front of you the superintendent evaluation that I went through and compiled. We're going to have that on the agenda for February for the board meeting, and if we need to go into exec session, that can be available at that time. So look those over, and when I copied them this morning and redid them, I put percent behind them. I didn't mean to do that. So in each one of those, that's actually a placement, not actually a percentage. So having said that, any questions, you can talk to me later. All right, the next regular board meeting, Board of Education, will be February 11th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the administration building. The committee of the whole meeting will be January 24th, 2019 at 6 p.m. in the administration building. An agenda for the meeting, which shall be kept continually current, is readily available for public inspection at the superintendent's office during normal business hours. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
Can I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions?